This video is sponsored by Aura. We live in quite a strange world these days. It seems that our information is always compromised, and it feels sort of helpless to stop these massive companies from illegally taking and selling your information. Think about all the spam calls and texts you get on a daily basis. I know I get them all the time. Well, thankfully, this video is sponsored by Aura. Aura is your #1 service to use to keep yourself safe on the internet. Keeping spam away from your phone is easier than ever with Aura's Data Broker Opt-out feature. Aura will remove your personal information from data brokers and search sites, so that way you can live peacefully knowing your private information is safe with you. Aura not only helps with spam, but also offers a plethora of other incredible features that I use every single day, like their VPN or virtual private network to stay completely encrypted whenever or wherever I search the web. Or Aura's financial fraud protection. If anyone compromises your financial security and is able to access credit cards, bank statements, etc., Aura will alert you within minutes and allows the insta-lockdown feature, making sure your hard-earned money goes absolutely nowhere. The beauty of it all is I get all these features and more in one app at an affordable price. I'm not leaving myself and my family vulnerable to data breaches and brokers. And if you don't want to either, you can go to aura.com/debunkfile to try 2 weeks for free. That will be enough time for Aura to find out if any of your personal data is exposed. There's a certain fascination to websites that have been abandoned. When you look at them, there's often a desire for you to place yourself into the shoes of its creator or the times that these places were from. When you explore them, there's such an alluring feeling to it all. These were sites that were so full of passion and heart, but at the same time, haven't been touched or even seen in decades. Take this site here. This is the classified mainframe of Lord Starscream himself, and as a massive Transformers fan, I just love this. The highlight for me is the subject called Laws. In here we have a written Decepticon handbook. Things like never turning your back on your enemy and be quick or be dead are just a few of the laws, but I love how much effort was put into everything here by an obvious superfan. Over the years, the way we use the internet changed. Personal sites like these became harder and harder to find as the corporatization of the internet really began taking effect. For many others, the novelty began wearing off. This place we call the internet, which was once a beacon of hope, creativity, and passion, is now for the most part a tool. But using that tool, we can still see what it once was. We can look back at a time where the internet was seen as a revolution, a place to share your deepest passions. Tonight, we're going to look at some forgotten old websites. So how do we find these old sites? Well, we have a few ways to do it. One of these ways is by using this website called Wibby, and it's incredible. Wibby.org is a website that only indexes sites which do not use JavaScript, which is the programming language used in about 98% of all websites today. With its randomizer button, it has the ability to unearth websites that haven't been seen in decades, so let's put it to the test. The first site that appeared for me was wastedlife.org. This site is dedicated to the idea that life is more than just the 9-to-5 grind, or the blind pursuit of wealth and property. Turn off the TV, throw away that poor excuse for a newspaper, and do something really fun. Remember all the cool ideas you had before you convinced yourself that a creative life was a wasted life? Stop doing what you're told, unless you heard it here, and dive into something deeply fulfilling. Build, write, experience, create. It's never too late, no credit card required. As you can tell, this website lives up to its title, as it's basically a showcase of various projects that the site author had made, but I appreciate the inspiring attitude it presents. Before we see the creations on this site, there's a link proving just how little you need to be creative. When you click it, we can see the humble workspace where all the owner's creations were made. These creations include a homemade hand-cranked movie camera, an accordion, and an Appalachian mountain fiddle, just to name a few. Under each invention, there's a lengthy write-up about them, basically giving the step-by-step as to how he figured out how to make these things. This is a website that I'm drawn to for a very specific reason. There's no greater mystery here, there's no weird thing that makes this all stand out. This is genuinely just a charming site all about sharing your hobbies, while also reminding us that no matter how overbearing life can get, never forget your creativity. There is always room for it, and each and every one of us is creative in our own way. In the words of the site's author, build, write, experience, create. It's never too late, no credit card required. Wibby just gave us a very fitting site to start off with, so let's see what other things it can unearth. Well, this is manualsweb.com, which seems to be another personal website. This one features a nursing section, his dog Gabby, a section about missiles, and his opinions about the very early Netflix. At the bottom, the copyright shows the years of 2000 to 2007, meaning that this site isn't quite as old as some of the others we'll get to, but it still doesn't appear to have been touched in almost 20 years. Most of the sections are pretty self-explanatory. Gabby's section shows the life of the creator's wonderful companion as the years go by, and beyond that, there's a bunch of other helpful links included. Things like my pet care tips, tips on making your own pet home page, and of course, why dogs roll and poop. However, the section I was absolutely most interested in was the Netflix section, which also appears to be the main showcase. So let's see what this consumer has to say about Netflix in its infancy. Netflix has sent me 34 broken DVDs, 2 fatally scratched DVDs, 7 wrong DVDs, 0 lost DVDs. That's right, these were the days long before Netflix was ever a streaming service. Before that, they used to send you movies through the mail. The first section of this site is dated from October of 2004, and it mentions initially feeling quite satisfied with the service. DVDs were arriving in the mail in a timely manner about twice a week. This was their standard $20 plan. Little did I realize, this was a bait and switch tactic. Suddenly, movie shipments went from twice to once a week. So I thought I could get better service if I purchased the $40 plan, but even that proved disappointing. The condition of their movies was terrible. Some movies were insanely scratched, many were broken or the wrong title. When I tried to get help or complain, I found it nearly impossible to contact Netflix from their website. I would have appreciated being reimbursed for the scratched, broken, or wrong titles, but that never happened. This article then goes over the frustration of returning your damaged movies, movies becoming lost in transit, the need to inspect all of your movies every single time, and it even points out flaws in Netflix legal disclaimers. Once you go below all this, you'll see that there's actually a considerable section about the experiences of other dissatisfied customers. It appears as if a lot of these people felt seen thanks to this site, and can completely relate to the frustration that this section went over. This poor guy here fell victim to a shady tactic that still persists to this day. He received a 2-month Netflix gift certificate for his birthday, but after the 2 months were up, he was automatically charged and couldn't understand why he wasn't warned about this. This is something people are much more aware of today, but I can imagine it wasn't nearly as common knowledge in 2004. What a joke this company has become. I've been with them for over 3 years and it has never been this bad. I have the 8 out at a time plan, and it is a complete waste of money. 1 out of every 3 DVDs I receive is either completely or somewhat damaged. I can usually get somewhat through the movie before it starts skipping. Sometimes they won't play at all. Their customer service is a joke. I am canceling my service after this month and will never go back. Hopefully another company will emerge to take their place. I guess it goes to show you what happens when a company becomes too big. Profits go up, service goes down. Man, if only this person knew how big Netflix was going to become. And really, that's what interests me most about this section. Even from the beginning, some shady seeds were being planted, but the outrage was clearly never enough. Netflix was popular then, but it was just a fraction of what it would become in the future. The bottom of this website mentions the desire for this webpage to be indexed by the search engines so that everybody could see it. Hopefully then, some of these problems could be fixed. At the very bottom of the page, he lists some Netflix alternatives. Green Sign, Blockbuster, Rent Anime, Intelliflix, and Amazon, coming soon. Now, this is gonna be a good time. This is the evolution of Bowser's Sprite. As the headlining villain of the Mario series, Bowser's turned up in plenty of the games, but not always in the best light. Who knew a horned, hulking demon king would be hard to draw? Because I am nothing if not self-indulgent. I'll be taking a look at all of Bowser's most notable appearances and giving my extremely professional opinion. Below this, he mentions that he's going to grade all these Bowser sprites based on 3 distinct qualities: his expressiveness, his chunkiness, and his Bowserness. As a massive Mario fan, recently I've been even playing Mario Wonder and replaying Odyssey. I cannot wait to see how he grades these. We start off with the original Mario Bros. From 1985. Naturally, Bowser didn't look like himself just yet. Despite this article mentioning how remarkable this all was for 1985, it naturally isn't on the level of future Bowsers. Expressiveness, 1 out of 5. Mouth open, mouth closed, it's still more emoting than any other enemy in the game, but... Chunkiness, 2 out of 5. He's the biggest sprite in the game, but the tile map limitations force him to look strangely elongated. He's big, but not lovably big. Bowserness, 3 out of 5. He's mean looking. In a game full of cuddly looking squids and strolling chestnuts, here's the first foe to look reasonably threatening, conveying as much fang-filled fear as white pixels can muster. The limited detail and expanse of flat green seem uncanny compared to the more textured turtle foes, which is probably a point in itself. He looks off, and every time Nintendo dredge up this sprite, it only serves as a reminder of how much he's changed in the decades since. For the better, of course. I don't know anyone who earnestly loves this sprite, and I don't want to know. You keep that to yourself. Next up is Mario 3, and right at the beginning, this writer says, "What a glow up." Expressiveness, 4 out of 5. He's got expressions, he's got poses, he's got angles. Chunkiness, 4 out of 5. He's a big and satisfyingly large sprite. About as ideal a Bowser you could hope for on the NES. Bowserness, 4 out of 5. That's a Bowser. A bit more acrobatic than we're used to, but Bowser all the same, even if he's still a little ways to go. When Mario eventually took his leap to 3D, Bowser of course had to as well. Super Mario 64 is one of the most iconic Mario games of all time, but it definitely didn't feature the best Bowser design, at least according to this poster. This website compares him to something that belongs at a Thanksgiving Day parade. That's a 1 out of 5 for expressiveness, a 4 out of 5 for chunkiness, and a 3 out of 5 for Bowserness. He may not have been the greatest Bowser, but hey, at least he was chunky. The Bowser that wound up doing the best of them all was actually Super Mario 64 DS. This is still the same Mario 64 we all know and love, but they updated certain things, including Bowser's design, who gets a 5 out of 5 across the entire board. The Bowser in Super Mario Sunshine was the runner-up. However, keep in mind this site isn't exactly up to date, as it seems to end before Mario Galaxy ever even came to be. Still, I thought this was a fascinating read and an amazing idea for a site. This was thoroughly entertaining, and I'm genuinely really happy I found it. For anybody as fascinated by ancient Roman history as me, I might have found the perfect website for you. There's so much allure to the ancient Roman times. For me, I think it can just be so mind-boggling to wrap my head around the fact that over 2,000 years ago, there was a society so large and advanced. It always makes me wonder what everyday life was like for the average person, just like you and me. With history this far back, it's so easy to mythologize and separate it from reality. But these were all real people with homes, friends, feelings, and struggles. This website helps that fascination of mine because it's simply about what ancient Roman clothing was like. There's a lot of depth here too. It goes over jewelry, common clothing materials, footwear, how hair was styled, sports clothing, and so much more. I of course can't go over all that this website has to offer, but I'm sure you can see how many grounds it really covers. I definitely didn't expect to stumble on a site like this, and that's my favorite thing about Wibby. It always pulls up something you couldn't possibly expect. So, what else can we find? Similarly to our last website, some of my favorite places to visit across the web are history sites. Ever since I was in 8th grade, I have been fascinated by the First World War. I had always been into history, but I mostly dabbled in some World War II battles and presidential facts. But ironically, that first Battlefield 1 trailer changed my life, and I know a lot of you out there are going to agree. The absolute masterpiece of a trailer got me excited for a game centered during the Great War, and I wanted to know more. Over the years, I became obsessed with the larger-than-life figures, the battles, the uniforms, the guns. World War II will always be a more popular subject, but something about World War I really stood out to me, and it's the driving force behind almost all of our historical videos. When I saw a website pop up on Wibby called worldwar1.com, I knew it was a match made in heaven. We've talked extensively about the First World War on this channel, but seeing as it's my favorite era of human history to learn about, I wasn't going to pass up another chance. That's when the website loaded, and the first thing I noticed was how empty the website was, and the title at the top, 1914-1918 Casualty Figures. The website is solely dedicated towards the cataloging of every soldier that died in service. Seeing these numbers that I already knew to be so cold and upfront made me feel really uncomfortable. Of course, it's war, and I know this specific war led to a lot of death and destruction in my years of learning about it, but I've never seen such a blunt representation of the horrors of war. This isn't a war movie with heroes and sacrifices, or even a story of a battle with a winner or loser. This is cold, hard numbers that allows me to see the overall scope of senseless slaughter that occurred in only 4 years of conflict. As much as the website makes me uncomfortable, I think it's incredibly useful. It puts a centuries-old war into more perspective. The older things get, the more mythical properties a time period or event takes on, and this website strips away all of that and presents the war to end all wars in its utter pointless brutality.
Welcome to Zombocom. This is Zombocom.
What in the world is this?
This is Zombocom. Welcome to Zombocom. You can do anything at Zombocom. Anything at all. The only limit is yourself. Welcome.
Okay, so we've used Wibby a few times, but let's take a break for just a minute. Wibby has shown us a number of charming yet forgotten websites, but there was another place that once held millions of websites. That place was GeoCities. A lot of the websites in GeoCities are probably the ones you really think of when you hear that term, the old internet. These were often the sites that had those really charming designs that have gone down in history. GeoCities may not exist anymore, but lucky for us, there is a place called GeoCities Gallery. This place has archives of so many of these old sites and aims to present them in the most authentic way possible. In the real GeoCities, there was a large group of neighborhoods. You had Area 51 for science fiction and fantasy, Broadway for theater and musicals, and as you can see, these neighborhoods all had even more subsections. Let's start off by looking in the Area 51 subsection Keep. Why not? I'm sure we'll find something here. This is Psycho's realm, and right off the bat, this is what I was talking about when it comes to that charming design style that so many of these old sites have. Whenever I look at these, I just feel such a strong sense of wonder, as if these designs alone unknowingly express the excitement that the early internet provided to so many people. This site explains that it just recently had to be remade, which I suppose is why it also features the classic under construction placeholder. As far as the actual contents go, here's the first section. Having trouble figuring out those internet abbreviations? Well, click here for help. Whoa, listen to that music. As expected, it's basically a list of all these abbreviations he can think of, as well as a list of keyboard emoticons and what they mean too. This list of symbols and abbreviations that are used millions of times every single day weren't always widespread knowledge, and it's interesting to go back and think about that sometimes. In the About Me section, we can see that the site owner was 19 when creating it, and he also explains the origin of his nickname Psycho. Although my name is Chris, it has been determined that there are too many people on this earth that have that name. So it was either kill every single one of them or just refer to myself as Psycho so as to eliminate any confusion as to which Chris is which. In all seriousness, Psycho is my nickname. One might wonder, how does someone get a nickname like that? It's pretty easy. Climb a stop sign and start randomly shouting, "You cannot pass," and people will start looking at you funny. Or hang a strobe light out on the 6th floor of a dorm just to see if it will distract the people who occupy the room below you. Or, well, just be yourself and have fun with life, because if you don't, you will die. Honestly, actually, that doesn't matter. You are going to die eventually anyway, so learn to live it up a little. The very bottom mentions his journal that he updates often. If you click on this link, you are redirected to his live journal, another place that was used extensively during the earlier days of the internet. As we can see, the last live journal entry was all the way back in 2003, which is the year I was born. Most of these entries here seem to be humorous stories and totally random tidbits, things like, which pre-1985 video game character are you? Or what font are you? Once again, there isn't a ton here in the way of content, but the casualness of it all is what makes it stick out to me. It arguably makes a site like this one feel like even more of a time capsule than the others. Speaking of time capsules, just check this out. If there's one thing that was common during the older days of the internet, it was fan sites like this. This one, as we can see, is all about Tobey Maguire. This is something else. This site has such an unmistakably Y2K aesthetic through it all, with a wealth of sections all about different aspects of Tobey Maguire. His biography page has an extremely lengthy write-up, but at the top of it, it says, "Just so you know, I didn't write that biography, I took it from another webpage. I don't remember the link though. I'm too damn lazy to write one myself." One of the other sections was his filmography, and as we can see, his most recent movie was none other than Spider-Man, which actually wasn't even out yet at the time that this site was written. In the links section, we can see a number of sites that this author got their information from, as well as a number of other sites the author just happens to be interested in. Surprisingly, most of these links actually still work, which can allow us to peer into what it was like to be a superfan of Tobey Maguire, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Dawson's Creek, and more. One of the Dawson's Creek pages linked was actually an Angel Fire site, which was another hugely popular website creator at this time that we haven't gotten to talk about yet. Thankfully, Angel Fire still exists today, which allows a site like this one to live on. Are these sites totally ridiculous and even cringy? Absolutely. But that's kind of the beauty of it. That's just the way it was when you were obsessed with TV shows or movies, at least for a lot of people, especially during a time where it was harder to find people in real life that shared these interests. I'm sure many of you can relate to once being that crazy passionate fan of TV shows, movies, or even people. And hey, if you're still doing that today, I'm definitely not judging. I like taking solace in the fact that even 25 to 30 years ago, things were pretty much no different. With my interests, I also resorted to the internet and wound up making so many YouTube videos about Rayman, Family Guy, and Gravity Falls, to name a few. But before that, people just like me were doing these same things with websites. These sites unknowingly do such a good job at taking you back to a more carefree time, where nothing mattered except your favorite celebrity and dedicating entire web pages for them. Let's look for one more site, perhaps something a little more action-packed. The Enchanted Forest subsection definitely called out to me, and I wanted to see what I could find in there. What I found was this, The Nightmare. As we can hear, it has music. That music, as well as the design of this place, is just filled with so much personality. I love all these primitive animations here. The first section, Gargoyles, mentioned a gargoyle named Gargi who was adopted on August 25th from an Adopt-A-Haunt program. Unfortunately, that Adopt-A-Haunt link is no longer active, so I was left wondering what that was. It seems as if these sections are, for the most part, totally disconnected from each other. The only thing they really share in common is a general horror theme. The graveyard section is very bare bones, and seems to be mostly about the art and animations on display. The Charlie Brown section is also pretty similar. Legends of the Zodiac is different, however, as it has much less animations and much more text, just being write-ups about each zodiac sign. Something I was really interested to see was the awards section. I really like the idea of internet awards, and I get saddened sometimes that they're not really a thing anymore. Of course, these weren't official awards or anything, there weren't any prizes or anything really, but I always found this stuff heartwarming, and it added a lot to the community aspect of the old internet. It's just kind of wholesome that website owners would give other websites awards for various reasons. The websites that gave these awards are not up anymore except for one. Clicking the Happy Halloween award actually sends you to an Angel Fire site, Janet's Place. This is just a personal website, and I have no idea when it was last touched. The banner on the front says that it could have been almost 2 years, but that could have been written much longer ago than that. Under the links section, there's a bunch of other Halloween sites. A few of these are still open too, which adds to that sense of exploration that the old internet was so full of. I have to give a special shout out to this All Hallows Eve website because just listen to this music. Nowadays, websites like these have been mostly replaced by social medias for better or for worse. Passionate posts about interests, movies, or your personal life haven't gone anywhere, but they're now found most often on places like Instagram, Twitter, or Tumblr instead of personalized websites. A lot of these websites from the beginning of the millennium were created as an outlet, a hope that if you created something special about one of your interests, maybe you could find somebody else on the far reaches of the internet that felt the same way. Today it's much easier to find those people, which I think is something that can be taken for granted sometimes. But at the same time, social media requires us to play by their rules, to create things based on their layout, their guidelines, and their gimmicks. It's not the same type of freedom that allowed these old websites to feel so exciting. As a result, even though the internet is so much larger than it was then, it just feels smaller sometimes, doesn't it? I never really got to experience the old internet, yet I still have so much nostalgia for it somehow. I feel like I missed out on something so beautiful that will never be replicated again. Though I will never be able to have been there, I'm grateful that there are still ways to view what once was. The majority of these old websites have otherwise been effectively lost to time. With the rise of search engine optimization, it can be nearly impossible to find anything like these in the wild. These sites weren't made to get as many clicks as possible. They were made to express passions and interests. They weren't made to be monetized or marketed, so they were buried. But let's not let the spirit of it all die too. If any of the websites shown throughout this video impacted you, I would love to hear about it. This journey throughout internet time and space was nothing if not human. We saw websites from obsessive fans, websites from an older hobbyist, whatever the hell Zombo.com was, and so much more. Exploring the old internet truly was all about the journey. What you were subjected to was never what you'd expect, because after all, humans are nothing if not unpredictable. With every passing day, we stray further from these forgotten websites, but maybe they can live on after all, whether it's through archives or the spirit that they stood for. These forgotten websites can be remembered once again. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked this video, make sure to actually like the video and subscribe. If you like the channel a lot, make sure to check out our social medias. They're all going to be linked in the description below. Make sure to stop by our Discord. It really is the best place to chat with us and hang with fellow debunk enthusiasts. Of course, if you'd like to support the channel a little bit more than just a view, head on over to our Patreon, Debunk Plus. It's only $1 a month and you guys get access to videos early, script PDFs, and whatever random stuff we decide to put up, and more. As always, my name is Sep from Debunk File. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.